I feel you there. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Witch Doctor. Today, our next guest is a producer and director of the feature film Less Lost. He's from Daytona, Florida. He's also in the film Before the Fall. And he's a friend of ours here at Witch Doctor for a while now. And please welcome jiu-jitsu enthusiast Chase Connor. Hey, what's going on, Chase? I'm going to bring Marcel to you.
All right.
Bud, what's going on, man?
I just went to the bathroom for a second. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right
back. You're good. We're live, so we're getting it going. So we're going to have some comments the whole time. I may or may not address them a whole lot, but Chase, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you on. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? You said Daytona, Florida, right?
Yeah. So I was raised in like Daytona Beach and this small little town next to it, Port Orange. We called Daytona the Dirt growing up. And then after that, I ended up doing a college route and then being a ski bum for a little bit. And then applying, I really wanted to make films. So I applied to different film programs for graduate programs. And I ended up going to UCF. It caught my eye because it was one in Florida, but one of the main things that they had at the time is they had started this new program where you make a film, you do everything. You do the fundraising, and it's just like making a small micro budget film because the Blair Witch guys had gone to UCF and we got to keep the rights to it.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of, and so I ended up there for about 4 years and made the movie, then lived in New York and California after that. Now I'm back here.
Did you like California? I've heard everybody, they at least go out there once when they're in the film or movie business. They go to, go into Los Angeles or Hollywood just for, even if it's a year. I had some other buddies. Did you like it?
I liked certain parts of it. Living in Los Angeles, which I did for a little bit, wasn't exactly what I guess I'm really into. But I've lived in different parts around LA, and then also some time in Lake Tahoe. That was before I went to graduate school. So the state of California is absolutely beautiful, and definitely my heart goes out to, I have some friends out there right now. Some of them had to evacuate. So with the fires, but yeah, it's a giant state. It's got a variety of cities and stuff. And so depending on what you want to do, that's where you want to go. Not just kind of like the places everybody talks about. But yeah, Los Angeles was just very crowded when I was there, and you're always in a car, and it's,
That's what another buddy of mine, he's a comedian, and he does like Angry Karens, the different skits that we've all seen on Instagram of him and an older guy reenacting what Angry Karens do, and different HOA clauses being broken in the neighborhood and whatnot. And he went and lived in LA and he loved it, but it was just super crowded. And I think a lot of people, they say that when they go there, they're like, man, I didn't know it was going to be like this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But you know what, guys, what we're talking about tonight is a feature film called Less Lost. We're going to have the link below and in the chat. You guys can go follow tell us about your YouTube channel. I know it doesn't have a lot of different things on there because it's made for the feature, but tell us what the YouTube channel's called.
Yeah, I think it's, so long ago. I think it's Out of the Barrel, and I've been kind of MIA from content creation after a pretty bad car wreck in around 2018, 19. Yeah, I just haven't been posted on it much, but I'm trying to change that and start making more stuff. But yeah, it's Out of the Barrel right now, and the movie was distributed. Just checking it while I'm talking, but anyway, the movie was distributed for a short time, and it was on quite a few platforms. I want to say till about 2018-ish or somewhere around there. And then the company that distributed it went bankrupt, and I found out through a article online. So,
oh, really?
So it didn't really make any money off it or anything like that. And then I kind of just had it. I've just been sitting on it, and then decided just to pop it online because why not? It's better than it just sitting on my hard drive,
Right. Well, I tell you what, let's do this. We got a few people in the chat now. We're about 4 minutes in of the live stream. So what I'm going to do for those that are watching this after the live, let's go ahead and play the trailer. Let me adjust some stuff real quick. All right, everybody.
we've got someone new joining us tonight. I'd like everyone to meet Luke.
Hey, Luke.
After what happened,
Hey, you know you can't smoke in here. Put it out.
You talk too much. Shit!
I think it'd be a good idea if you attended group meetings. We meet Wednesdays at 6. How's Jen?
I don't know.
You could be in jail right now. You could have killed that guy.
I wasn't gonna kill him. I was in control.
Really? You're never in control. That's the problem.
Luke was in the 1st Special Forces group in Afghanistan and Iraq. He has polytrauma with multiple TBIs, gunshot and shrapnel wounds. He does have some nerve damage that causes chronic head pain and severe PTSD.
I'm so tired of it. Everybody thanking me. With you is the only time it's not fake. I don't have to try with you.
I can't just be here for you, Luke. We have a child, and I'm all alone. I'm doing it all by myself, without you.
So what was? You write anything in that journal yet?
Some. Not really, though. Faith.
Not like this, Luke. You are not welcome here anymore.
You ain't like the rest of us. You ain't alone. You actually got something worth living for.
You see my family in this house?
No, they still around.
Yeah, they're around. They don't want anything to do with me. Still hear those screams?
Yeah.
Me too.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome.
It's
The first thing I
wild.
noticed was the lighting and the film and the way that you had the camera. Like when I first was watching, I was like, God, I can't believe I actually met the guy that made this, man. It's like really freaking badass quality.
Thank you. So we had a really tight team because it was, really it was a no budget film basically.
Right.
And Marco Cordero was the cinematographer, and he's top notch, man. He's a professional working still right now out in California. Hope he's okay in the fires. But anyway, yeah, we had a lot of conversations beforehand because I was very involved with the actors, and I had a lot of non-actors or first-time actors. It's a very small film set. Things can go wrong in production when you have a small budget and stuff like that. So we just communicated really, really well about the style and tone. And as we kept going, he just really knew how to find the spot to evoke the experience that we were looking for, which is trying to give you that, since it's such a small movie anyway, to try to give you that feeling of going through the experience with the main character. So you're kind of close on them a lot.
Yeah, it's been a while since people have, returned from these different deployments that guys like myself and yourself, we were in high school when some of these things kind of kicked off, and I fought in Iraq in 2007, 2008. And I think the big thing that people have noticed with all their friends that have been deployed is that there's a really high PTSD rate. And understanding the ways that people act is different in everybody. And not knowing how to communicate with somebody that's dealing with a lot of PTSD and a lot of stress, all of my buddies have it. And I like that the video sheds light on how somebody can have a really good heart, but because of some stuff that they've been through and given everything and it never always being enough, you lose guys overseas or, just whatever. Guys go to different schools and they don't make it through and whatnot. You give the Army everything that you got. And then when you get deployed, you have everything that you loved about the Army gets ruined. Sometimes you lose friends. And people look forward to getting out or finding a job that doesn't have to deploy anymore. But then that can be tough because then you're a recruiter and you hate your life because now you're not feeling like a soldier, How did you run across the screenplay? Was that yours or?
Yeah, so it was kind of a combined thing that I worked, the guy that played the lead character, we ended up writing it together. And in the beginning, Yeah, and he did a great job in the movie. And at the beginning, when I was making the story, I was making a movie about Daytona, and it was 3 stories, and one of them was this story. And
Okay.
then, you're trying to figure out budget concerns, and there's lots of things happening. So I was like, well, which story do I really care about the most? And I was like, the veteran story I felt really close to. My friend Trey Kate he got blown out of his boots literally. And he was recovering at that time and working, with me with the story and just all kinds of stuff in the background. And so we decided to focus fully on that story. And that's how it kind of came about. And the kind of wild thing about the script as you see it is that it's about 75% of the script, the full script, if that makes any sense. And then there was quite a few things that were different from the shooting script, because if anybody's ever made something before on a low budget, like things go wrong, and in our case, we weren't going to be able to do pickups or anything. So when, like, if someone didn't show up or a location fell through or, a makeup effect didn't work or something like that, there were kind of a whole bunch of these hurdles. At the end of the day, I'd review the footage and then I'd start seeing, well, what do I have here to play with? And then that made me cut all the fat out of that script and then adapt to, okay, well, we don't have this location tomorrow, but what do I need to have happen next in the story? And so then I would literally write stuff the night or the morning of when we got to a location, and thankfully I had a good connection with all the actors and stuff, and they would just go with it. So it worked out.
Every day changes, and you gotta think on your feet. It might just be script wise, but and I think of like Friends, Joey Tribbiani, how he was on that soap opera for a living, and how they ended up killing off his character, and he didn't see something. That's all. What made you want to do films? I mean, I have an interest that I never pursued in filmmaking, which I guess is manifesting through YouTube. But what made you think, I'm gonna dump everything into this and chase this?
Ever since I was real little, when I used to play with my toys, like G.I. Joe's, Swamp Thing, He-Man, like Ninja Turtles, Legos, Erector sets. They were never isolated, and I would create large storylines with anything I could. So I'd go throughout the house, and I just grew up reading comics, and I love storytelling a whole bunch. It's always been like, I guess, a refuge or something for me. I guess growing up, and I was always kind of like directing a story, being interested in on how all that kind of stuff works together. And then when I got into college, I went for a literature degree first. I really enjoyed prose fiction, and then I just really, I don't know, started liking the idea of just telling visual stories, and I really wanted to go to film school. And then it might be like a gene in my family, but like my whole dad's side of the family is very much like, let's go break the rules. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's not like I come from any kind of money or connections or anything. I don't know.
Right.
It was totally, and it's hard to imagine, I guess, for people. What's that?
Some guys in Hollywood, like, are born in Hollywood, and their parents are involved with Hollywood, and they just walk right into that life. It's just waiting for them. And then you have people who want to get into that come from something completely unrelated, which I guess I can kind of relate to, doing the whole fitness thing, being from like a country town. I mean, there ain't nobody from my town ever done the stuff that I had done, and my parents definitely weren't doing what I was, they definitely weren't doing that, so it was kind of like I had to figure it out on my own. Because, I mean, you put 4 years into school, and then you dump a bunch of money into stuff. Now you covered the topic of it. This is a war veteran movie. There's all kinds of movies you can make, and it's covering war veterans. I saw a scene where an older war vet walked up to the main character, and he was an older guy, and he was like, "Man, I just want to thank you for your service." He was such a good actor. that like I was so impressed with the older guy. Like, well, I felt like he was genuinely walking up to somebody. I felt like he was actually a war veteran. How did you meet the cast, and how did you select people? Because they did a great job pulling off how soldiers act when they get home and they're kind of skittish. That old man, he nailed what war veterans act like. You know, how did you cast it?
Are you talking about
That's a good question.
A goatee and a vest?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a vet. He was a frogman, I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
Guy, he was a kind of mentor of mine who passed away. She knew him in town, and he had built guns for Last of the Mohicans and all kinds of stuff. So he was just retired here in Florida, and like she's like, oh, I have this connection. He used to work on sets. Maybe you can talk to him. So I was like, cool. And I'm thinking like, whatever. Then I get over his house, and it's exactly what an old war vet's house is like. You know, there's like hunting stuff, and it's like shit's everywhere. His wife's not there anymore, so he's like let stuff go. And I'm like, oh, this is a weird connection. And then he starts talking about like Last of the Mohicans. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you know that movie? You know Michael Mann too? I'm like, yeah. And he takes me in the back, and he's got this shed, and it's just filled to the brim with all of these crazy movie props and shit. Like it was so wild. Yeah. He was telling me stuff at first. I didn't believe him until he showed me the shed.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure there was like a lot of happy accidents too. Like, you know, something didn't pull through or makeup didn't work, but it led to something you liked better than what you originally planned. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how we play. It's exactly how we placed him in the movie, because, he was licensed to still do the weapon prop stuff. And since we had some blanks like with guns on the set, he was my prop master. So it's like, that's just the guy that, knows everything about the weapon that's on set, and there's no ammo or anything in there. And then he's the only one that touches it before the actor. And then the chain continues. So there's never any kind of.
How many people total? Issue. Like 10 people total
for the crew?
Yeah.
Yeah, it fluctuated. I guess between maybe 6 and 10, depending on how busy the day was. But it was a hardcore group of like 5. I would say, I think it was 5 to 6 people. I'd have to like, because days changed. But for the most part, there was like that little core group making everything work. Which, I definitely would want to budget next time, because that was, I mean. We went through a war getting that thing done, and watching each other's back and making sure everything's moving. And then as far as the other actors, we did some auditions, and some of those were first time actors.
Nice.
And then some of them, like Mojica at the veterans table. He's a veteran. That's his real injury with his I think he has a hearing issue. And then the psychiatrist, she ran the local theater, and she had acted when she was younger, but I just asked her, I was just like, you look like you'd work. Do you want to do this? And she said yes. And then, the main character who I wrote the script with, he was actually a veteran too. And so he had been friends with my buddy Trey, who had gotten blown up. And then, we were writing it, and then we kept auditioning people, and we couldn't find anybody. We found Brandon Alexander, the co-star, who's like one of the best actors I've ever been around in my life. And he's just an amazing performer. So we had, and that supporting role was really pivotal for me. It was like if that didn't work for me, it was just going to be terrible. Right. So we had everything except the lead. And we couldn't find anybody for me that I like could feel. And that's how I was trying to choose somebody, was trying to feel a presence. And I don't know what that means still, but like,
yeah. You just feel it. You just feel it.
Be the right guy.
Yeah. And it's like, this is a very tiny movie. We don't have anything for, entertainment and flashes and all kinds of, so whoever we're with has to feel authentic to how I wanted to tell that kind of story of his version of that, PTSD. He was like an American Rambo character flipped on its head. Like that was intentional.
Oh, cool.
Like,
cool. I'm sure body language was everything. Like,
body language is,
body language must have been super important. Yeah. And what's the runtime of the movie?
I think it's right at the limit.
Okay.
of like an hour and 15 minutes or something, like right at where you can call it a feature, and we could submit it to film festivals because we weren't able to do pickups. So we just had to work with what we had.
Right.
Yeah.
This is like your, so I'm sure you're a fan of Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. He's a brilliant guy. When I've heard of the different, I used to rent from the movie stores like Blockbuster. They would have every once in a while like a speech. Like literally this one time we saw Kevin Smith live at some university giving a talk about all of his movies, and some brilliant kids stood up and asked some really great, smart questions, for the lack of a better way of putting that. And this reminds me a little bit of like his Clerks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the first thing you do. You put all your money and time and everything into it. And it's like probably the most memorable one because it's what started the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you have anything that you're looking at doing in the future? I know that you did this a few years ago. So it's like now, you know, now that that's done, is there anything in the future with film that you're, besides some stuff that we've talked about, but
Right.
is there anything on your mind on the horizon?
Well, I took maybe a couple years off when I was resetting when I moved back. But I've always been writing scripts and stories, and I've had ups and downs since making that movie. The issue of when I made that was right when there was a transition going to all online stuff, but it was happening. When you're in the middle of it, you don't know it's happening really, right? So, you know, if any viewers here are younger than us, it's not going to make sense. But imagine like people were buying tons of VHSs or DVDs and Blu-rays, or there's all these different other markets out there, and those markets allowed for the funding of like people going out and looking for independent directors who could make stuff for little money because they had a guaranteed set of distribution channels they could flip those films to. So they'd go to the film festivals, right? And that's where we had the auteur period of Quentin Tarantino and, you know, all the people that have come out of that era of like the 90s to like early 2000s. So anyway, yeah. So what was sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit.
Well, I was going to ask you, when you work with veterans, I know that a lot of times right now there's some information online that's been kind of upsetting for some, if you want to say that. They're kind of people are really curious right now about the special operations community, which is your main character is a special operations soldier. So I thought I would bring this up. You know, your guy was a first special forces group, what they call Green Beret. A Green Beret is a specific job in the Army. It's the 18 series of, you know, they have weapon sergeants and demolition guys and intel dudes and medics, and all of the schools are notorious for being so great in that particular wheelhouse of combat, right? And there's been another guy online lately that's been under the gun for writing books. And there's been other guys from the special operations community that wrote books that are no longer with us. And it's come out that like they might have had a silver star, but in the book they had 2 silver stars. We might have this one guy who's a Green Beret and he's such a badass already, you know, black belt in jiu-jitsu, MMA fighter. But the way he worded stuff in his book has gotten some attention that he tried to make it look like, even though he had a stellar career, absolutely amazing career, that there was some stuff that was over embellished. And I made the joke that I was like, that particular guy, he could land a freaking space shuttle on Mars. And because he has a PTSD symptom where no matter what he does not feel like it's good enough. So he can't help but tell everybody his resume the second he shakes their hand. And he can't help but try to over embellish war stories 24/7 to get an approval from people he already had. Mm-hmm. Did you ever run into people that were like that, where you knew that they might have been in the military, but like this guy's making himself sound like Rambo, and I don't know if I believe like this, you find a lot of people, we've all seen the footage of guys on the side of the road wearing a pair of ACUs and they say that they're a veteran, and someone pulls a phone out and starts saying, well, what unit were you with? And they're like, oh, I was with the 88 something, and they start making stuff up. Did you run into any of that while you working with military material? I know a lot of people had to say, people auditioning for different roles, like, well, I was in the Army, so have you ran into anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I don't, I'm sure there's someone smarter that could describe that whole kind of trend that you see, but I'm sure it's a combination of like how the culture treats people, and then there's that need
called
for
stealing
status.
valor.
Yes. Yeah. It's the humans, seek status, and that I guess could be seen as an easy way to do something like that. But overall, like getting deep into the veteran community around my area, I met such a variety of all types, and so it was that kind of like at the time I was pretty naive, and I had military relatives, but they didn't really talk much about stuff, and so it was like I don't know kind of how to explain it, but I was just very naive going into it, thinking like, well, I need to write a story about soldiers. So it's like, I need to know what a soldier is, in like some kind of absolute way, and I need to know what PTSD is and how he's going to get over it. And the more you open up subjects like that, the more if you're really paying attention, you realize that's kind of a wrong way to approach it. And so, like having that kind of like, I don't know if it's like a Walmart or McDonald's kind of soldier commercialization of like what a soldier is, like strong, tough, like get shit done, is a good person, doesn't break the law,
be strong, be all that you
can. Right. And so I just met a variety of personalities, and some of them incredibly interesting and fun, and some of them not so much fun. If that makes any sense.
Do you have any angry people?
I have met a couple of those, but on the film set, everybody was cool. Corey, there's a big, tall, bald guy there. He was a vet and also a retired MMA fighter. And he was nice. A wild person to be around, but really good dude. But like just the high octane. I mean, he's went from fighting to fighting to fighting, in his life. So But as far as like stolen valor and stuff, there was like a pretty crazy thing that happened, I guess, during the last week of shooting, kind of into post-production. But I wrote the movie with Shane, and then we ended up going with him as an actor. And then like a lot of the inspiration of the stories, when we were writing it together, he would tell me, oh, I did that. I was a Green Beret and XYZ, but never like too much crazy stuff, but little kind of breadcrumbs. And, I was just kind of like, I learned that kind of before production, I was just like super like excited about it. I mean, I was just like, oh my God, wait, he was a Green Beret. Like, this is crazy. And I'm like, I have access to this, and he's going to act in the movie, and I was kind of like selfish in that sense, I guess, of it being like, oh, this will be a good thing for like marketing stuff. So I was just caught up in it big time. And some issues happened where like outside kind of dramatic issues that were kind of starting to work their way into the film set. And we discovered he wasn't who he said he was, if that makes any sense. That he had served in the military, but he hadn't done all this stuff that he was telling us about. And so that was like a really like reality shattering thing for me, because I was just like, man, how did I not even know that? And I'm making this movie, and this movie must be a piece of shit, and like oh my God. And so that was kind of a crazy thing to deal with. We've since like made our amends, and like but there was a falling out for quite a while after that, from that, but
I can imagine.
There's a lot of stories in between. So if you can ask me some questions, because it's like how'd you meet the guy? Like, how'd you run into him?
how'd you know him in the first place?
Yeah, so my buddy Trey, who was blown up and back, and he had met him at one of his veteran groups.
Oh, cool.
And he had gotten introduced to him as a Green Beret. So I don't know if that means he tricked the / whatever to the psychiatrist group people or something, but that's how Trey was introduced to him.
Yeah.
And so he had been friends with him. And then when Trey and I started working on stuff, he was just kind of, he would be around. And then Trey's like, he's really good at art and he's a creative guy and he's a vet and, maybe he can help out. And it kind of became this just slow growing friendship. And, there's some good times and, he is a talented guy. And I got close with his family. So yeah, it kind of grew over a period. I want to say it was probably a year or two or something like that before production actually began. So it wasn't just, I just casted him and then we started working together. And so, yeah, it was a really tight knit group. And there was other things like the actors that are in the flashbacks. Mm-hmm. Like about 4 months before we started shooting, I had us hanging out intentionally, just us that were going to be that core group of friends. Cause it was really important for me for the character to feel like it's like him losing that purpose and being with his brotherhood and like fighting together and they're all gone. He has to kind of switch his team to his family as the team. Right. And that was the whole thing. So I wanted them to work really well together and they're all green non-actors. So we'd hang out and do things like, ridiculous stuff like go to the beach and like fill up 5-gallon buckets full of water and have to race them back and forth. And then when we're all exhausted from that, we would put together like a tent, do something kind of, you had to work together as a team, but you're tired. And so, like stuff that would frustrate us basically, but then we'd call each other names or something. And then we'd get nicknames for each other. So we'd go through something together before, like that was kind of what that natural vibe I was trying to build.
Team building.
Yeah.
That volleyball really scene from Top Gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's badass. Yeah. That's awesome. Let's see. So how long ago did you make the movie?
Geez, 2000, I think end of 2012, we started doing festivals till about 2014. So
okay, wow,
filmed it in 2011. So it's been quite a while. Time moves fast.
Shoot. Yeah, it does, man. I feel like just yesterday it was, 2014, just the other day for sure. Well, let's see. I was going to tell a little bit about how me and you even ran across each other. And we don't have to spoil any of the projects that we're working on at the moment. But we have a commonality, the three of us here and everybody in the, if that's the way you word that, and everybody in the comments. You happen to follow, and this is all part of the reason why we're doing interviews with people, was to show the character and the intellect level, the capabilities of people that watch Lady Babylon.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so you reached out to me. And you were like, hey, man, if you want to talk, hit me up. Here's my number. I got some different ideas and stuff. And so I hit you up and we talked a little bit about some different ideas. You've also got a copy of my book, Witch Doctor Christianity. I don't know if you've read it yet or not. It's a long book, though. So,
no, I haven't read all of it. No, but
it'll take a while for sure. But I was going to ask you, how did you run into, what brought you to, because everybody here, a lot of people here came from that same community, the Lady Babylon channel and stuff. But what sparked your interest in that channel? Not to be like riding in the wake of Lady Babylon, but that is something that we talk about here with all the different religion and mental health and entheogens and all the things that bring us to these different YouTube channels. How did you end up finding that channel?
Yeah. Well, first I did want to let you know, like it'll make sense, but I was working outside a lot. And so I was, just YouTubing it. Right. Yeah. And when yours came up, you had put the translations up there and stuff, whatever else. And I watched a couple more of your videos and there was something about you. I was like, I feel like this guy's actually a genuine dude.
Right.
Usually I don't
Right.
reach out to anybody. You know what I mean? Like,
A
so
lot of people that have emailed me don't reach out to anyone ever. You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
So
I think
anyway, hats off, like, you know, and and you're cool after. Yeah. So it's nice to meet you. How I originally kind of fell into it was I was working on a pitch deck for a small horror movie that, you know, was like, the idea was my friend has this really cool house in North Carolina that's up in the mountains. And I was like, oh, what if I can come up with a fun, you know, 4-person horror movie in this house, you know? And so I went down a rabbit hole of like, just creating, like, you know, the whole horror and the villain and stuff. And there's a character that's in there that I was trying to get really close to the idea of like what the terror of nature is. And it's like, it's charming and alluring, but it's like terrifying and scary, and anything can happen. It's like the terrible beauty of the universe or whatever. So I was trying to encapsulate that in a character. And I thought I really had it. And then I was just like, oh, this character is kind of like a god. That's cool. And so I took a break from it, and I was doing, you know, painting a house. And I was just like, you know, I've been writing this, thinking really hard about this. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to learn about old gods, because that concept sounds really cool. And it's just like all this kind of random. And all of a sudden I started falling down the Greek gods. And then all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, I didn't come up with anything new. I kind of wrote like a Dionysus character of Euripides Bacchae without even thinking, really. And then, you know, you got like terrifyingly beautiful, but like laughs at you when you praise him or whatever else. And that's a really cool story. And Gnostic Informant had such an incredible like amount of things on just, I mean, you could, if you go to his channel, you see all these little mini documentaries. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's like, what's he even going to do now? He's done like everything in history I can even think of, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what is
super, yeah, super fun. And yeah, then he went on Danny Jones. So that popped up in my algorithm. And then Alman Hillman came on after that. I was like, and he kind of, or like popped up after that. I'm like, who is this guy? And yeah, that interview was freaking wild. And I was just like, I was like so tickled by, it's like I could hear, not performing in a disingenuous way, but this like really amazing thing he was doing as a character in the interview. And he held it almost the whole time, while at the same time he's like got all of this stuff he's very passionate about, and he's trying to, it's like, you know, figuring out the right way to bring some of this stuff up. And he fearlessly just throws you know, the hardest thing to swallow right on the table, you know, with Mark 14:51. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, after that I was like, well, I don't know. I mean, this is really entertaining, but they're pretty wild, like, you know, whatever. Yeah. But I had grown up evangelical for about, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years or something. And so I was like, you know, it would be cool to go just kind of translate some of this stuff and whatever else. So I kind of fell down this rabbit hole thinking like, well, there'll probably be some wild stuff in there, but I mean, I'm sure that guy, Amon Hillman, is, you know, he's exaggerating, or this is kind of entertainment, or, you know, you could kind of like, I guess, kick it under the rug in some way. And then the more I was reading it and the more I started following the little, you know, his lessons or whatever in order. And then I would stop when I got home after working or something, and I would go do the internet thing like that we're all doing, where you go translate stuff. And so, yeah, I just got hooked on, like, I was just like, holy crap, like, holy crap. Like, what is all this stuff in here, you know? And then connecting that to the Enlightenment. Him and Gnostic Informant did a really good job on American democracy, I think last 4th of July or something, when they were still doing videos together. And that whole idea of the history. And to me, what's like really got me hooked is I'm really inspired by the idea that like, we don't really know who we come from, right? Or who we are. And maybe you can't ever fully know that. But if we did, like, look how much more things kind of start to make sense. And like look how incredible the species is. You know, it's like, It's guns, germs, steel, and drugs, apparently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to make a t-shirt that says anthropology. Not that I'm an anthropologist, but my mother was. So it was, it was just kind of something that you grow up talking about a lot. Every teacher I had growing up knew, but my mom, you know what I mean? They were all like, can you come give a talk on anthropology? La, 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 la. And so I want to make a shirt that says anthropology. We keep finding more drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like how Graham Hancock says, like, and not to even name drop him because he's been under the gun a little bit lately, kind of for the similar misconceptions about Ruck and Amon. People are taking what he's saying and they're kind of conflating it also. But when I first talked to you, you said that one of the first things that you translated was Revelation, right?
Yeah. That was the golden sash and just the morning star stuff. And it was one of those, it's just moments where I remember when I was younger and like reading the Bible, I was like, this is just really wacky stuff. And, people would be like, they were probably on drugs a little bit when they wrote that last book. But to see the connection to Venus, to see what like the intention is there to return like that, it was just like, I loved it. I was just like, this is so amazing. This like Venus trans character coming back and like, like it's like a sci-fi comic.
2 episodes ago, I featured some artwork that broke down and also last episode as well. We talked about the transformation of the gender of Christ happening with the wound. Now, he was already supposedly, according to the artwork and the interpretations from Jean-Claude Schmitt and Bastet and some other guys too, the different artwork, you'll see the puffed out trying to represent a castration or the lack of any genitals there as a castration. But the one thing that people try to say is that's not what the Revelation says. So I have here Revelation 1:13, which is kind of like the Mark 14:51 passage in a way, because the book Gynomorph, Hermaphrodites, and Jesus, I might have flip-flopped the first 2 words, but I have it over on the bookshelf. It talks about this. So I, of course, did my own translation. And so I brought up the codexsinaiticus.org website. And it says, and in the midst of the candlesticks, one like the Son of Man, clothed in a robe reaching to the feet, and girded about the breast with a golden girdle. Now, the word they use here for breast is mastoi, which is a feminine word. And normally, when they're referring to men, they use the word stethos, like stethoscope. It's where that chest cavity word is from, right? And of course, the bra that we hear in the layman's term description from Lady Babylon, of course, was not invented yet, which we know, but it's the golden girdle. If you go to the website, codexsinaiticus.com, it has the translation right here, and girded about the breast with the golden girdle. So you'll see on my page, you'll see a couple of thumbnails where you'll see a girl with brown hair with a golden breastplate. And that's my best AI rendition of a feminization of Jesus. But according to the different artists that study, like medievalists and whatnot, they are in tandem with Lady Babylon's theory that when he was jabbed in the ribs, this was a vaginal transcendence. This was a flipping of the genders. And this particular scene in Revelation, written by John of Patmos, this is absolutely a psychedelic vision.
100%.
Jesus has a sword coming out of the mouth as well.
Yeah.
So it's
really? Wow.
see some of the different artist renditions of this. It looks really uncomfortable when they draw the golden sash around the chest. It just doesn't make any sense the way that they draw it. Each time it just looks ridiculous because they got they got the white hair and everything, but
I'm
even
pretty.
the Codex Sinaiticus.org is referring to this as a golden girdle.
Yeah.
There's
And
so many other words you could use for armor if it was supposed to be a male.
I'm pretty sure girdle is the ancient word for a bra. It just wasn't called a bra yet.
Yeah. I mean, the bra was
think.
invented, and obviously the contemporary version of what we call a bra wasn't invented until late.
Yeah.
So,
right, yeah.
But the girdle had anything supporting the midsection and the upper appendages
the
of
torso.
female was the use for the girdle. If this was supposed to be armor, it would have. They have some other words they could have used for armor, but
and
but
was
they
there
chose
any
to
ever
use this.
like other hero characters and that would be used like that? Do you know what I mean? Like if it was a sash, if that makes sense. Like like I don't see any other storylines or anything where someone just has a sash across here. It's golden, as opposed to like the whole vision of it. And then obviously like I'm the morning star, like there's all kinds of really incredible narrative elements in there that, even for me, it's like, even if someone could argue over the technicality of like the word, like you could, I mean, like the Neoniskos, or like, you're on that all the time, or I mean, there's like a million, right? But even just arguing about those like little tiny distinct differences doesn't mean like it throws the whole idea out the window that there's not this larger thing happening. Like the whole, like
not at all.
Yeah, the whole event that's happening in these scenes, like if something like this isn't happening, it's translating directly like that, then I don't know what is. Like you'd have to like debunk every single word if that makes any sense, right? And like,
this was the last of the Mohicans of the Greeks. This was the last of it all. This was the last transformation. This was the last guy worshiping mother goddesses in any way or referring to anything known as Sophia. This was the last guy doing that. Now it's 100% with the invention of Paul's epistles and the different books that actually made it through, that are actually translated into the later copies, that are actually been, how much have they changed from the copies we're not allowed to even have access to? How much has it changed from there for these different breadcrumbs to be pulled through? But the concept of, the eunuchs and talking about them in the Bible and becoming eunuchs for the kingdom of the heavens in Matthew 19:12. This is nothing that's new. In fact, I talked the other day on a show about how the history of the world with the Mel Brooks film, they have a funny eunuch scene where they bring the girl out, the oracle out to dance for all the eunuchs. And if the guy wasn't a eunuch, they'd be able to tell because the feather will rise up that he's holding in front of his crotch, And so this stuff's been around. I think what's funny is that people don't know. Here we have Canis. In Greek mythology, Canis was a Laptid hero, ruler of Thessaly, and the father of Agronaut Coronus. Canis was born a girl. Canis, the daughter of Elatus, but after Poseidon had sex with Canis, she was transformed by Poseidon into an invulnerable man. Canis participated in the Centauromachy, where he met his demise at the hands of the centaurs by being pounded into the ground while still alive. This is just one of a ton of different transformation gods and goddesses from back in the day. But what I can remember clear as day is that in 2003, when I went and watched Troy in the movies 3 different times, Brad Pitt was Achilles, when I was Hector. They left so many details out about Achilles.
Yes. Yeah.
Odysseus and the different deities that followed Odysseus. And it was almost like a realistic version of the story, if you will, because there wasn't any divine stuff happening throughout the entire film. But they left out some larger attributes of some of the soldiers during that Hellenistic time, or during that, that Bronze Age, battle of Troy, if you will. And so I think a lot of people haven't heard this because they just don't make accurate films just like the Bible, they don't make accurate versions of Bibles. They don't make accurate versions of the Iliad. And so nobody knows that there's Dionysios following these rabbis around, not just Jesus. The Pharisees.
Yeah. That's the most amazing thing to me is like
they're not in the movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, but there's a whole bunch of cults. Like, it's not just like we're singling out Christianity right now, or this whatever, however many versions of that were back then. But like, that's just because they're like a dominant, like basically political power at this point, right? But it's not like we're singling them out and being like, look at what you guys are doing. It's, whatever else, which also like, look at what you guys are doing, or like the stories are going. But like at the same time, it's like all Greek. It's all, Greek speaking, Greek influence, like all these different gods that have been permeating the cultures, living in a democratic type, environment where they're all allowed to keep their gods. Right. So they're all communicating and they're all coalescing and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's like, and that idea of a history, I don't think we're really taught when we're younger. Right.
No. And that's the thing is that a lot of, I worked in politics and I worked for the right side, and a lot of people there are, as much as they're educated, they're a little ignorant to how things were, 3,000 years ago. And, the different practices that were underway, the different things that they were doing pharmacologically, however you want to say that, pharmacologically, that we were doing some different stuff back then that I call them Chick-fil-A Christians, just because they don't try to even educate themselves more on their religions. Some Christians do. Some Christians have a critical thinking, and they have their own interpretation of the religion, and that's cool. I mean, even if they believe in the divinity and stuff, that's totally cool. I get it. We have like Knights Templars and stuff that have their own way of thinking about all of it, and they supposedly have all the evidence and proof to think how they think about stuff. But what the Knights Templar believe about Christianity is not what the average Christian believes. It's not.
Right. No, not at all. Not at all.
No,
but people like some people just want to have the rules, put their head down and follow them. They don't want to think, right? They just want to have the thing that gives them hope, that gets them through their life. And, not everyone needs to think. We need the Chick-fil-A Christian. We need all these different types of people, or else the world would be boring. Everyone would be the same. There'd be nothing to contrast anything with, And like, and these ancient people were feeling their way through with what works. And it's easy to look back on the past and project the way today's world works onto it and think they were something they weren't,
Yeah. But I want to, with this particular channel, Witch Doctor, one of the biggest reasons I brought Chase on today, and I think it's been a great interview, is because a lot of people are reaching out to me for the exact reason I made this page. It's not just for war veterans, but some people have emailed me and they've said, I have no idea why I'm emailing you. And then they will send me a novel worth of information. I think
this subject carries a lot in people.
It does, and it brings a lot out of people. But I feel like, as much as I'm not a therapist in any way, I feel like this is a community and a society that's about mental health. We have people that have had PTSD in the chat, for example, and they've used different entheogens to get over that. And this channel's covered religion and entheogens and anthropology and ethnobotany all being wrapped into all of that. It's just that we live in a society where everything we're talking about is frowned upon by people that don't educate themselves on anything to do with the basis of why they frown upon us. Mm-hmm. So it's this weird kind of ignorant perspective that they have, where they think we're like doctors for what we think about how we look at the world as far as how to heal from different kinds of traumas and stuff. And you don't have to just have PTSD. Girls go through a lot of shit, and being a civilian, going to college, they can have different things that don't go the way they like. And I think the initial response is they put people in heavy therapy, medications. They give them the works. They throw the whole kitchen, everything but the kitchen sink at them. And not to say that that stuff doesn't work. It absolutely can, and it can have its place for sure. However, it's not as effective as other ways. And it's also not as effective as there's other methods to helping people get better when it comes to mental health. Sometimes they're stubborn. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's their environment that's not allowing things to happen. You know, it's like if somebody's absolutely miserable, but they can make changes to their lives, then I want people to at least learn from guys like Chase, who've actually gone and made feature films. You know, guys like myself have gone and done a whole different, unrelated to film. I mean, even though I was on a couple of video shoots or a couple of photo shoots and stuff, you know, I was usually the guy in front of the thing, trying not to act too autistic or whatever, or try not to say something stupid to just blurt out randomness and whatnot, and trying to just do what they needed to do. But I never really learned anything about film. But it's funny how we've all come together because of Entheogens, wanting to learn more about Entheogens, and we all happen to find different channels. We all watch the same different channels, and I wanted people to know that, like Witch Doctor, this particular community is here for everybody. So yeah, keep sending the emails, reach out. And just like Chase, if you have a story to tell and something that other people can learn from, that want to know about, we're going to bring you on the show, just like Chase. And even though you might not be somebody who's made a film or somebody with this past careers that people look up to or anything like that, everybody has a story. They come from different traumatic backgrounds, and sometimes all they need is somebody to listen to them.
100%. You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And we want to provide that here for everybody, you know, just like
I was going to tag on to kind of like what you were talking about with, you know, you brought up the PTSD and, you know, people throwing the kitchen sink at them and stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's that weird, you know, I don't know your personal experience, but like certain events in my life, there's been threshold moments where reality kind of shatters because of some kind of dramatic change that was out of your control or something like that. And then you wake up the next day and it's your nervous system's different. You don't know it at the time, but all of a sudden, you know, things feel incongruent, like they don't.
Something's off.
Like, yeah. And so it's just interesting to think about it from a way that, like, well, humans are kind of trauma machines. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. And so like that idea of you know, trying to find a way through the thing, I guess, you know, what a Stoic would say or whatever else. Like, I think that's where those entheogens really come into play in fostering like a transformation of the cognitive mind or the experience or something like that. So you can readjust with this new information that you've just been traumatically delivered through like an accident or whatever else, as to like what reality now means to you or whatever else. And so that old version of you can't keep going any longer. And so it's like you're transforming into something else. And I think that they help with that. And I'm not saying that that's a fix either, or it's going to work for everybody. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't work on some people and works for others and stuff like that. But I think the whole idea of trying to fix something is like, you know, it's kind of strange, right? Like, what are we fixing? Life? Like life is
I wouldn't call it
going forward.
I wouldn't call it fixing. It's opening the eyes to new perception.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right? You're helping yourself see something from an angle that you've never seen before.
Well, the main character seemed real stubborn, and he seemed real resistant to therapy, right? Yeah. In a situation like that, it's somebody that's having a really tough time, you know, right then and there. I mean, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't have any expertise in anything. There is no degree for bodybuilding, you know, and so. But my advice, like when dealing with other guys that are dealing with PTSD and stuff, is they've done all the research. They've watched all the YouTubes. We all know who Dennis McKenna is. We all know who Paul Stamets is now. Mm-hmm. And it's drawing a lot of attention around this. And you as a filmmaker, I would love to see something in the realm of Entheogens hitting Netflix with your name on it one day.
Yeah.
Because
I've got a couple pitch
footage. Even this channel talking about, each episode, I'm trying to include some kind of entheogen. I haven't been the best about it because I've been getting a lot of the biblical text out of the way. But a big chunk of my book is all of the different books on entheogens that you can have, and what are some of the superstar entheogens of each book. In The Road to Eleusis, they're talking about ergot being on all the grain around Eleusis, and everywhere throughout all the lands, being rampant everywhere. And so it wasn't a secret that this fungus on the top of the grain had some effects to it. You'd have to be a fool to think that wasn't known about. If every other civilization in all four corners of the earth has figured out how plants work, you're not going to insult the entire civilization of Jerusalem and everybody that's ever lived there for never having any of that knowledge. Is insane, and it's insulting to their intelligence. And so now we have rabbis coming forward with different podcasts talking about psychedelics being involved in the religion before it was the earlier years before it had a name. That's when all this stuff existed, and then the people in charge start taking it away from everybody, but they keep using the stuff, or breaking the rules, or having their little helpers everywhere they go, and but everything they can do, but nobody else can, because you got to worry about that angry God that's waiting on us when we're done. So you better be good and give us your money, or else you're not going to be able. You got to buy your way into heaven. Like all that crap corrupted the whole thing. And of course, they didn't want everybody blazed on hembane, or amanitas, or anything growing out the ground. There was stuff, 10,000 years ago that might not even exist now that they were even using. Different roots, plants that have gone extinct even. So it's the tip of the iceberg, for sure. But
do you think, I'm really curious how the research in this direction is going to work out with just how close to the rulers and people piecing together what we would call the Bible throughout. Is there a direct thread we could find about Platonism? Because it's just so on the nose for me. Maybe, I'm sure that there are technical details that could be argued out, but what you just mentioned about, you guys can't do this anymore, but we're going to do it. That's it's like a form of control. And then,
the
this
Plato
is
noble lie.
Yeah.
Keeping Santa Claus real for your kids.
Or it feels like it's in response to Euripides' Bacchae, which is a universe that's kind of like Shiva's universe. It's like you're in this grand tragedy. None of us are making it out in the end. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? And then this other thing is well, I know exactly what's going to happen, right? And this is the way you do it, and you can only do it through me. You can only get your divinity, that whatever that connection for you to yourself, to the universe, to your loved ones. That whatever that is, you can only get it through us, and this is the way you do it. And if you give people entheogens and let them do their own rituals, there's going to be problems, clearly. But the main problem for them would be control, because eventually someone's going to be like, I don't know if you're telling the truth. You know what I mean? Your brain's going to think differently no matter what you're told.
And I think it also it can. So some people, they can be a little over time without getting the right amount of relief from their stresses of life. I think a neurotic behavior can sometimes just increase. And a lot of parents with a lot of time hacks to meet every day, baseball practice, work, food, cooking, years and years and years of that. And you start to get into this method of thinking to where if anything veers off track at all, it's going to cause destruction for you and your family and the whole thing that you got and everything. And I think entheogens, even though people frown upon people talking about it because they say that it uncouples your brain from its rational thinking. So we've had people in the industry critiquing or criticizing Lady Babylon for talking about being on your throne when you're watching the lectures, and
he's having fun.
their QAnon theory is he wants you to be smoking and to be on drugs because it makes you that much more gullible to ridiculous stuff. And I almost thought it was the exact opposite, actually. Mm-hmm. When you are having transcendental experiences, or even somebody who is like a tight-knit army guy, you know, like for me to talk to friends from high school and tell them, like, back when I was younger, you know, back when I was bodybuilding, like, yeah, you know, cannabis helped a lot. And they're like, what? You? No. Right. And I'm like, yeah, it did. But it helped me let go of that rigid lifestyle that was actually making my life worse, because I'm only allowed to drink and use nicotine. So I was doing the hell out of it. Yeah. And those two things will ruin your life right away. You know, if you're over consuming those two things, your dopamine fueling your body, and you're drinking away your sorrows and not sleeping. And I was just jacked up my mind on performance enhancement things as well too. And that definitely has its own,
that's got to be some wild stories, man.
Well, and I want to bring people on who have had, you know, psychedelic experiences. And I'm not going to say too much right now, but I talked to y'all before the podcast, and I did say, and I'm just going to mention it now in case he's watching, but one of our followers is friends with the really popular Mr. Olympia from back in the day. And all of the Mr. Olympias are, of course, my hero. Being a bodybuilder before, everybody dreams about being on an Olympia stage, and of course meeting all of them. And I'm friends with Lee Haney. He knows me by name. If you say Steve,
oh, cool,
he'll know. Yeah, he lives in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He was at he was the host of one of the shows that I was in. But yeah, I just used to write him at Facebook and stuff, and he'd write me back all the time, and that's how he eventually knew me. And I hired him to come and do a grand opening at a supplement store I was running in Lexington one time. And so, of course, he knew me. We gave him a check for $5,000, you know, to come and say hi all day long. And
who are you?
Say what?
I said, who are you again?
Lee who? But so one of the guys that watches our channel says he's friends with one of the Mr. Olympias that watches the channel also, and he watches Lady Babylon. So this is the guy I really look up to, and I've watched every freaking DVD and VHS and even stuff in black and white, wink, wink, to give a hint. But it was like one of the best things to see how far this channel's reaching. But this particular Mr. Olympia, you know, we've seen a transformation in him, unlike other Mr. Olympias. And what I mean is, and this is just giving a hint, but I'm not going to speak for him, but we saw this particular guy, you know, 5'11", absolute stud, you know, 280 pounds to 300 pounds, shaved, you know, soaking wet, and like shaved down to the bone and everything. And he was always, from his personality, a little stiff, you know, back in the day. And it was 100% eyes on the prize. And that's how you have to be when you're a world champion for, you know, several years in a row. I won't say how many because it'll give away who it is. But if we could have guys like that who have had experiences where now they don't even really work out every day. They take yoga and smoke cannabis, and every once in a while, you know, go to Brazil and drink ayahuasca or have the frog venom. You know, we'd love to have him on. I'm just putting that out there in case he watches this, that it'd be great to have you on, since we've heard you talk about this particular guy. We've heard in different interviews talk about this material. Since he's not shy to share his experiences, I definitely want to have people on who have had psychedelic transcendental experiences so that they can talk about the trauma that they've healed from that. You know, I just like anybody who's seen war, you know, you don't want to see people going for any sooner than they have to, you know, and we've all had friends that have dealt with stuff, and, you know, it sucks. You know, just last year, I lost a really close friend of mine from my childhood named Trevor, and nobody saw it coming, but it was just a breadcrumb trail of depression can lead you to a bad spot, you know? So we want to have the channel available for everybody that needs help. Know this is a community where my emails on every episode, if there's something you want to talk about, or if there's a story you want to share, we want to bring you on. But real quick, before we sign off for the night, we're just over an hour. I want to play this trailer one more time.
Oh, thanks, man.
So that everybody that joined
and it's also, I just posted on YouTube. You just watch it for free. It's not going to make any money or anything, but yeah, you don't need to pay or sign or anything. Just go check it out.
Well, if Out of the Barrel expands and adds more feature films or even short films to their repertoire, if you will, I think that would be great. You know, me and you've been working on a project that we don't want to say too much. I'm sorry, guys, but y'all are, what we're looking at, it's not even high budget. It would just take some finagling with schedules and you know, hopefully we can find some guys that want to get involved, because it would be great for us to work together, all of us, you know, and make something, you know, in the realm of this stuff. You were talking about wanting to bring back the Greek gods. I definitely want to do some retellings of some different scenes, both comedically and, not comedic, but serious storyline stuff and comedy type stuff, because you got to keep kind of a light heart at the end of the day. People, they've been arguing about this topic for a long time. The last thing it needs to do is ruin your life, or anybody turn into that girl from Wife Swap who had the meltdown, and came home and screamed at everybody, they weren't Christian, different things like that. But once again, guys, this is the film, the feature film Less Lost. Let's check it out real quick before we sign off.
Yeah.
We've got someone new joining us tonight. I'd like everyone to meet Luke.
Hey, Luke.
After what happened.
Hey, you know you can't smoke in here. Put it out.
You talk too much. Shit!
I think it'd be a good idea if you attended group meetings. We meet Wednesdays at 6. How's Jen?
I don't know.
You could be in jail right now. You could have killed that guy.
I wasn't gonna kill him. I was in control.
Really? You're never in control. That's the problem.
Luke was in the 1st Special Forces group in Afghanistan and Iraq. He has polytrauma with multiple TBIs, gunshot and shrapnel wounds. He does have some nerve damage that causes chronic head pain and severe PTSD.
I'm so tired of it. Everybody thanking me. With you is the only time it's not fake. I don't have to try with you.
I can't just be here for you, Luke. We have a child, and I'm all alone. I'm doing it all by myself, without you.
So what was? You write anything in that journal yet?
Some. Not really, though. Faith.
Not like this, Luke. You are not welcome here anymore.
You ain't like the rest of us. You ain't alone. You actually got something worth living for.
You see my family in this house?
No, they still around.
Yeah, they're around. They don't want anything to do with me. Still hear those screams?
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, man, let me tell you, I really appreciate you coming on so much, man. I've been meaning to get you on here for a while now, but it finally happened. So is there anything you want to say to the crew before we let you go?
Well, no, if you want to stick around for, if you do have time, if anybody wants to ask me any questions, I've got a lot of crazy film stories, or we could do that, save that for another episode if you've got a skedoodle too.
Well, let's see. No, I'm good for a minute, man, for sure. Let's see, guys, if you want to ask Chase any questions, definitely hit us up real quick. But Marcel, let me go ahead and cut it over to you while we let people think of some different stuff, and we'll keep Chase for a minute. What you been up to today, bud? Now we can cut it over to Witch Doctor stuff for the remainder of the live.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say the the depth of field in those in those shots is so nice. I'm just I just gush over good cinematography, man. But
it's really good, man. I couldn't believe that you did it. Like, I was like, God, dog, he's like for real, man. I know, and I've met a lot of guys that do video, like, you know, the guys that filmed the Olympia. I mean, I know those guys, you know.
And I would also suggest keep stuff in your back pocket for another episode too, because, you know.
Yeah, you know, I had something I was thinking about telling the audience about for them to chew on, but I think I'm going to hold it off too.
Yeah.
So
Don't spill all your secrets at once, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, we definitely want to go live again with you for sure.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry.
We got a question actually.
What kind of camera?
Yeah, what kind of camera did you use on set? Like, what's the name of it, and like, you know, what does that cost?
That's what I was going
to rent.
No, so it was that was at the time that DSLRs were really popular. DSLRs are when they first had the sensors on those still cameras that allowed them to shoot pretty incredible video, and the real power, you know, came from the ability to use those photographic lenses. There's all different types of lenses you have with a still camera, and then the sensors got better and better. We didn't use the DSLR. It was I'd have to go look it up in my email. There's been so many cameras since then, but we used we got a camera that had a good sensor, let in a decent amount of light at the time. This is like 2011, and the DP had his own like lens adapter, so he had different film lenses he could switch in and out of. And he's just, you know, for anybody out there that wants to be a cinematographer, there's two really great things I observed working with Marco. And honestly, I've never seen anybody as good as him, even though I've been on larger commercials and film sets. Well, a couple of the larger film sets, like really, really big, those guys were good. But one of his qualities were like really knowing his skill set, always kind of staying up to date on it, but having the muscle memory and the practice of really knowing, like, you know, how the lens works with this sensor, and like how, you know, he just had all of that locked and loaded.
He made all the
and it wasn't just like what looks cool or what's a cool shot. It was like, what are we trying to evoke or make, you know, feel, you know, when you have all those paintbrushes ready to go and you know how to use them, you know, you can start to think more creatively, as opposed to like, you don't, like, cool shots are cool, but if it doesn't do anything to serve the story, you know, it's
exactly
worthless. And his other skill was his ability to work, communicate, and stay in the background of the actors, but be very attentive and be in the conversation without like actually like talk to them too much or whatever else, making them feel comfortable, because he got very close to a lot of the actors. And if you've ever acted anything before, it doesn't matter how big the camera is. It's strange. It's strange that there's something following you around and there's all this stuff going on. So
I can imagine. I've never, you know.
Cinematographers don't get enough credit. I mean, but
they don't. Well, most people think it's the director that's doing the cinematography, right?
Yeah, and directors like vary, and obviously the job varies. It's not we're not in a system that whatever looks for the best is, but some directors are going to be maybe more performance oriented, or they're just going to be more like get the shot and go. You know, so it really depends on you know, who's the director, how it's being run, and then usually you want to try to meet skill sets. You know, like They like
cross thread them, like cross thread skill sets.
Yeah, and so the cinematographers definitely play a huge role, but as well as like the entire film set. It's, I mean, I don't know if you know this, Witch Doctor, but the general structure of a film production is like a military operation. That's how the hierarchy works, and there's a reason for that. That I don't know if it's explained well enough all the time, but you're going into unknown territory. You have a map for a mission you want to complete. The territory is hostile to what you want to accomplish. And you have a limited amount of resources and you have a time window, right? So that ability to form a spear with your production crew, that's why those they're formed like that. And those core teams are like how we're sold, like directors do everything or the lead actor does everything. I'm sure there are moments where there are strong influences from different, directors and actors, clearly. But man, films are really made with the whole team, and like cinematographer, sound person, your AD. These are all like just super vital, important roles, and they also. Yeah, they make the movie work.
Yeah, I had to
people bounce ideas off each other.
I had a few run-ins with some movie directors, and gosh, so on A Journal for Jordan with Denzel Washington, they seemed good. They seemed like they had everything figured out. It was running right. It was Denzel's crew. He's got it all figured out. But for American Impeachment, that particular series, oh my God, that guy was the biggest douchebag in the world.
Yeah, it happens.
He talked to me like I was 7 years old.
Yeah,
I had just worked for Trump for a freaking year, and I was like, dude, you don't know who you're talking to, man. I was like, all the problems you're dealing with is stuff that you deal with on every movie set. Stop yelling at me like I'm your freaking wife or something or whatever, no. And but I ended up actually kind of blowing that guy off. He needed 17 dudes to watch just vehicles in the middle of Washington, D.C. And I had 2 guys show up, and he called me chewing me out and stuff. Well, by the end of the week or the 3 weeks of shooting these freaking movies for American Impeachment, it was on all the different impeachments that have happened. Right. So we were at Watergate for half the thing, and by the time it was over, the movie crew hated this guy. They absolutely couldn't stand how he ran stuff. I mean, shooting in the middle of DC, it's probably one of the hardest places you could probably shoot anything, just because of the traffic and where you're at, and different laws and stuff I'm sure you have to abide by, and different things you have to do before you can get the movie done. But they shoot tons in DC. It's just, it's so congested and stuff. But I can see that the huge difference from someone who had their stuff together, like Denzel's movie, versus some guy who is doing all the labor. It's some guy who's getting a ton of money for doing it, but he sucks at working with people, and he couldn't get people synchronized for the operation. So they were constantly having to retakes because they just didn't have their shit together. And as the security dudes, you see everything that happens everywhere you work. You're at the buildings where all the politicians, when I used to do that, you're at those buildings longer hours in the day than the people who run the entire RNC. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm there 12 hours a day, every day of my life. You know what I mean? Like, there ain't nothing I don't know about, But working on movies, I can see it being stressful. I have one friend from high school. His name's Cortland Davis. So his dad was involved with some different plantations owned by some movie producers, like Joel Silver owns All Brass Plantation. Well, my friend Cortland's dad runs that plantation. So when Cortland got out of high school, he went into film school, or he studied theater or film at, I believe it was film, at University of South Carolina. And he lived there and went there for like 4 years. And next thing you know, he's out in LA working on movie sets and traveling around and, doing that thing. And I think he really, really enjoyed, doing that. He was the only friend, out of everybody that went off to do I have another friend that did stuff like that, but I couldn't stand her. And I'm not going to talk about her on the show, but yeah, it's like, you don't want people that annoy the crap out of you to have a cool job. You know what I mean? But, I'm sure that it can wear you out as you get older, being on set, and how much like Brad Pitt talks about how, like, I'll definitely give the gig to the stunt guy. Like, I'll, if they're shooting at 12 in the morning, like, yeah, let the stunt man do it. Like, I'm gonna stay in bed, so I know that, I know you feel lucky to have had the chance to even do it, but are you going to do anything again other than stuff you're talking about?
Well, yeah. I mean, films are high risk ventures. They're very expensive. I am found out through 23andMe, 90% Irish. So I don't have a lineage of money. Wild Irish people that came over here. So it's a very difficult thing to get together. The the conviction to want to go do something like that again, especially if I'm going to do it for a little bit of money. It's been very difficult to get something going again. I've had ups and downs with had one script that a producer wanted to shoot in Mexico at one point. Another script, it's like another script and script competitions, and just nothing's ever really coalesced where you can get the funds to get her actually going, and that's kind of the whole game of all of it, right?
We got to get somebody that's a fan of the channel. We got to get them involved to fund this operation. Somebody with lots of money who can write this off as a tax thing. Come hit me up in my emails so that we can get these next projects off the ground, because you got a lot of talent, and that movie definitely needs to have more eyes need to see that movie. Our country seems to go in and out of wars as a business. So it's only a matter of time before, people that follow our channel have, a son or a brother signing up for these next set of whatever altercations that we're going to have throughout the world and stuff. But man, I really appreciate you coming on, dude. This was great.
There any questions from the chat? I feel
yeah, there's two there.
All right, go ahead, bro. You want to? Were the actors ex-military? Any of them?
Yeah. So the lead, and then I want to say two of the people at the table that was just the side characters, and.
Oh yeah, that one kid at the VA, right? In the beginning.
No, he wasn't. That's my buddy Danny Bellini. He's in Hell House. I'm still really great friends with him. He is such an amazing, fun guy.
Cool.
But he's in New York, and he runs like videography for I think an events corporation. He's doing a great job, whatever else. But he was in Hell House, which is kind of like a campy cult kind of horror movie. And me and him like write back and forth and share each other's stories and stuff. So anyway, he was an actor. He's just I don't know, he's just charismatic. He popped out like that. And then Vernon, the guy with the vest at the end that we were talking about that worked on Last of the Mohicans. He had like the necklace with the alligator claws or whatever. Yeah. Right. He was a vet too. And then Corey, big bald Corey in the flash, they weren't flashbacks. They're sorry, I'm going to just butt in here like a nerd. I made that movie when I wrote those. They weren't supposed to be flashbacks. And if we were able to do pickups, I think I could have carved that out a little bit more. But because we're with the character, it's not really about the reality of what's happening. It's like his experience. So when he's having those dream sequences or whatever, when you do watch the movie, it's like I imagined what his different parts of his brain would be doing to try to solve this problem, right? So he's got like different the different characters that are and from his memories are like different parts of his brain. There's like the doctor, there's the marshal that's kind of like the aggressive, angry character. There's like the leader that's keeping everybody together. And so it was like I was imagining it was different parts of his brain, and all of those characters did pass away. But when you watch movies and you see flashbacks, we automatically think that's reality, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be, right? So you'll notice like in one of the third or fourth flashbacks towards the end, the characters that when he's sitting in his like little dreamscape talking to them, the characters reference indirectly what's happening in the storyline with his wife.
Okay.
So it was like kind of integrating that idea that like you think you're watching flashbacks the whole time, but you're just kind of watching experience, and I guess him go through all this stuff. But yeah, there's quite a few military involved, and then Trey Kate that helped produce it and write some of it, and he was just around from beginning to end. Super great, supportive dude. He was also a veteran. So
my friend and I, we made a movie in high school, and the guy gets into heroin, and he overdoses. but the end of the movie, is him waking up from, like, he goes through all this trauma and all this shit happens, and at the end of the movie he actually wakes up and nothing actually happened. It was just him having going through his overdose, right? Like similar to how the flashbacks aren't
right. Yeah.
And he gets a second chance at life, basically.
Cool. Cool.
Dude, I love having you on, man. We're gonna have to have you on again, and we got to find a way to combine our forces to make some different stuff on the topic that's brought us all together.
Yeah.
Ancient religions,
sorry.
Entheogens.
I'm sorry. I just figured out chat over here. I see one question. Is it based on a true story? So no, not a direct true story, but pretty much a lot of the, like, I don't know. It's an amalgamation of stories, of me collecting stories from different people and putting them together into
I took it down too quick.
Yeah. So it wasn't like direct made about someone's life or anything like that. So if that makes any sense.
Then it's based on multiple true stories.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Inspired by true stories. I always find it funny to say based on a true story, like as if that means like what you're getting ready to see.
Yeah.
The truth of exactly what happened.
I mean, 9 times out of 10, the true story isn't the best entertainment either, right?
Yeah, I guess it depends on like what moment you pick, but yeah, it's entertainment. It's I'm learning more about how the Greek theater worked and stuff. That's what stories are meant to do, to evoke some kind of experience and understanding inside of you from maybe a different point of view. Maybe it's something you can learn without going through it yourself a little bit. But it's never like shouldn't be confused with reality. We're obviously going to be living in a strange time now that we have screens everywhere. And people it appeals to our senses so well that like we confuse it with reality. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I know 100%.
Narratives. Yeah. So, but yeah. So I always like shy away from saying this is exactly what happened or anything like that. But yeah, there's definitely all genuine inspiration. And
some of your filters, they remind me of the movie Three Kings.
That was a great movie, man.
Which is also based on not only guys that did what I did in the Army, but it's also based on true events.
Yeah.
It was, if I'm not mistaken, it was the 422nd out of North Carolina. It's a civil affairs battalion. The real life story was that two or three of these guys linked up with the Delta dude and went and stole the gold from. Yeah. Definitely a movie people should check out.
The movie's so good. I forgot all about it.
Yeah, well, you have some of the filters on. Have kind of some of that same vibe because when you're telling these war stories,
it gives depth of field. It makes the edges of the screen out of focus, but the middle of the screen is in focus.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, it's like a desert warm feeling.
Yeah.
Kind of Jerry Bruckheimer-ish. How everything's got kind of that green glow.
Yeah. Well, it's like we were working towards like the feeling of. I don't know if it'd be like a mental institution, but kind of like a cold world. And then like where he's going to escape is kind of the warm, is kind of warmer. And they kind of start to switch and brighten up towards the end. The beach scene starts to become a little bit more warm in the colors and stuff like that. But also, the desert's always associated with, if you're shooting shots, color, different shades of color have psychological effects on you. So like a hot desert, right? If you showed it really blue and cold, it might feel like something different, depending on what you want to evoke in the person.
It would feel strange seeing a desert with a blue filter.
Right. Yeah. And if you want people to feel strange, make the choice, but just know that choice affects.
When I saw that movie in the theaters, I totally remember just thinking to myself, like, I'm getting the weirdest vibe from this desert scene because they're like, hey, we see a guy like when the movie starts and it opens up, and here I am in like middle school, and like he's got a gun, and it looks at him through the binoculars, and you see Mark Wahlberg, and he goes running up, and he's kind of clears the body. It's like, whoa, you got yourself a guy, da, 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 da. And I remember thinking to myself, like, there's sort of a depressing tone slightly to this lens. And it even has a warning at the beginning of the movie. It says this film is shot with different lenses and stuff. So just keep in mind that you're okay. Like if you think something's wrong with your eyes, and I remember seeing that as a warning on that movie growing up.
Yeah, man.
But it does help paint the picture, because they wanted to give this weird sort of omniscience. You can cut the depression with a knife, because or it's like that. It's this drag. Either it's way too hectic and that's its own thing, or it's way too damn boring. And guys are over there just miserable while their lives are falling apart back home in the States, So there can be this very dreary sort of like the beginning of Shaun of the Dead, kind of like this sort of dreariness. Yeah, and they captured that real well. But I mean, you did a really great job building the suspense and that weird tinnitus sound that people put when there's this tension building in the room, like it's really easy to watch, even though it's something that I think everybody knows a war veteran that's dealt with some PTSD for sure, but it definitely deserves the recognition, man. You did a great job on it.
If I could, and I was going to say, if I could give anybody out there that's making something like, there's no absolute hard or fast rules and stuff. There's obviously guidelines, and you should always pay attention to how those guidelines work and why they're there and stuff. But when you're making something, think about what you're giving to the audience as opposed to what you want to make them think about you. And I think that's a very difficult thing for performers or anybody. When you create anything, when you bake cakes, when you, I don't know, it could be anything. But when you're making a film, especially, that's all that is going to sit there with them. And so it's something you made for them to experience and have their own interpretation and adventure on. So I think if you can point your story, like, in that direction, that I don't know, I think it makes for better work, if that makes any sense, as opposed to just trying to look cool, or I don't know, be famous, or I don't know. There's a lot of reasons I guess people do stuff, but that way of looking at things affects how you create.
Yeah, and, put yourself in the shoes of the audience, right? Mm-hmm. You don't sell a product by what you think about it. You sell a product by understanding what your customer wants to buy. It's the same thing with writing a good story or making a movie. You understand what your clientele, I guess we'll call them audience or clientele, you understand what it is they want, and you're getting into the audience's shoes and making something beautiful for them, because not everybody wants to see what you want, right? You're making it to try and captivate what they want.
Yeah. I think that's part of it. The only caveat I'd add on that is like,
not to take away from the director's vision at all.
No, I'm just saying that sometimes I think audiences don't know what we want.
Of course.
And maybe even the director doesn't when they're fully making it and stuff. So absolutely, like in the direction of you're giving the audience something. But it's like, I don't know if you've ever watched a movie where they kind of tell you how to feel.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a great, like well-made movie and stuff, you feel kind of like
they're like spoon feeding you. They're spoon feeding you the movie instead of letting you find it.
Someone just touched me weird. Why are you trying to tell me how to feel and think about this? You know what I mean? As opposed to letting me kind of go through it. A truly creative person sits at the edge of the known and unknown and pulls from the unknown into the known, which is why most people don't know what it is they want, because it's coming from the unknown. Sure. Yeah. The unconscious and all that stuff. Absolutely, man.
Right.
Yeah. It's like it's a spooky thing to think about, but I don't really know too many creative people that I can think of that have not mentioned the idea of a muse or inspiration or something that,
if they don't, they're not creative.
Yeah, well, possibly. Yeah, I mean, it's like
that's a mean thing to say, but yeah.
Dude, it's
Well,
all over
I
the
mean,
music industry.
if
Like,
you create something, you're creative. What yeah, I know what you
Well,
mean.
yeah, I get
it is
that
all
trailer.
over.
Have you seen Gus Van Sant's Elephant? Have you heard of that movie?
Geez, that's
It came out. It's like it's like a movie that's basically like a reenactment of Columbine. But
oh yeah. I did see that.
Your
That
trailer
was dark
kinda,
as hell.
Your
Oh, my
trailer kind of
goodness.
reminds me of that. Like it feels, it's got that.
What was it called?
It's called
just
Elephant.
like a school shooter.
Yeah, but it follows around the character, and it's got like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
it's got like 3 or 4 different characters it follows, and it shows you all the scenes from the 3 and 4 different characters' perspectives. And when you brought up multiple stories, it kind of reminded me of that, and how all your shots are so close, and it's got that very like I don't know the right word to describe it, but it's got that same like right next to the character feel.
Like in Collateral.
Yeah.
The camera's like right, following you through the alleyway.
Yeah.
And, what movie were you talking about?
I didn't mean to say your movie was dark, but that was
no.
I
know what you mean.
You're good, dude.
It's Elephant. The movie's called Elephant by Gus Van Sant. Yeah, it's really fucking good, man.
It's dark. It's dark.
Gus Van Sant. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Found it here.
It is actually, the movie is dark. Wow.
I feel like that
October
period was really cool. If you go back and watch a lot of even young Robert Rodriguez, and there's a lot of directors who got the opportunity to do some really cool stuff. And again, that's like it's all market based. They could sell VHSs, DVDs, and Blu-rays to Blockbuster, to Walmart, to whatever else. So then they could come invest in.
You get to sell your movies 3 times, right? Or 4 times. You get to sell the same movie like 3 or 4 times, right?
Sure. Yeah. And they'd have guaranteed vendors
yeah.
that would buy it, like Walmart buy like 500,000 copies. So if I go buy Reservoir Dogs for $500,000, then it's going to automatically make 300,000 or something. So there was like these reps going out there to these festivals looking for people. That's not at all how it works anymore. I don't really know how it works, to be honest with you, but I think it has something to do with built-in markets, platforms, trends, still manufacturing, probably people at some level, but also people sporadically popping up out of nowhere, then having built-in audiences. But yeah, anytime you get a large amount of money behind a production, that's a huge business operation. So it's you're not going to see a lot of directors or writers, I would say, like teams working on risky products.
No.
A24 does a pretty good job. I feel like I enjoy their stuff, and every now and then I feel like a really clear thinking storyteller or a group of storytellers comes out of it. But the 90s, I mean, that was just what an amazing time. I feel like,
my friend went to film school. He got to do work on David Lynch set.
Oh, wow.
Or it was David Cronenberg. One of the two. It was David Cronenberg or David Lynch.
Both wild.
Yeah, both wild. I liked them both. Eraserhead's such a good movie.
Yeah. It's people taking risks and stuff. But I guess that's kind of what all of this is turning into too, with this kind of like the YouTube medium and stuff like that. So
it'll come back around, right? In man. It'll have.
I think. Yeah, everybody watch. I think film won't go away. Maybe just won't become the premier thing. Maybe
the overproduced style of movie, whereas like the small independent film is like raw. More, you get what I mean? Like the desire for more raw film will swing back into favor, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely market trends and like what the civilization
that's the word, market
going
trend,
through and stuff. I think there's like natural cycles of like the 80s were really interesting because it was the Reagan Christian, everything is going great, whatever else, and then that whole kind of bubbling punk and hip hop scene of like the disregarded people started bubbling up, and then some of the creators would make satirical things that were like kind of hit movies. Like if you watch Back to the Future, it's almost kind of satirical at the end when he just gets a truck. It's like, oh, you won and you get a truck, and it's like this commercialized kind of satire.
Yeah,
you know, and yeah, there's like kind of like it's like Michelangelo hiding stuff, right?
Yeah,
right.
Idiocracy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it bubbled up, and then the '90s was just like, here it all is, and then all of a sudden let's close it back up. I know, based on a whole bunch of stuff, probably financially related, but
of course, it's totally financially related.
Yeah, when you like. I think what's important, and the similar thing happened in the '70s with where they found Scorsese and all these other directors, because the studios had felt like they had lost connection with their audiences or with the regular American or whatever, you know, they were looking for based on their sales and stuff. So they went out and found these kind of, there's the civil rights movement. There's all these things that happen, and they went out and tried to find these connection points of like people that would tell stories that people could relate to because they were telling stuff that it felt like was unrelated or whatever. And then in the '90s, I guess it's kind of similar, but the important part about that is like they went in and found people who were proving their skill, I guess, or just not proving anything. They're just making stuff and they're good at it. And there was people that invested in them, right? Otherwise they never would, they would never would have gotten a budget together. You know, like well, Quentin Tarantino would have never got $3 million to make his next movie together if he was just still working at Blockbuster or something.
And there's definitely luck. There's definitely luck involved too. Like it's finding the right investor and the right screenplay. You know, because it's like investors don't want to usually take risks. They don't want to lose money, right? So then, like the potential for the risk to test something new is kind of hard to do, right? Whereas I think that's what makes movies stale these days is because the lack of wanting to take a risk.
You know, Matt Damon, he talked about recently he was on well, I don't even know how long ago it was, but the last time I saw Matt Damon do anything was on the show Hot Ones, right? And he was talking about how in the 90s you could make a movie about a guy falling in love with some chick who, you know, he's in college and all this stuff happens. But now they're making Fast and the Furious #8. And it's green screens and it's all in the studio. They're trying, you know, and they're doing it with a crew of 7 people and some cameras, and they're changing the whole thing. It's like the industry shrinking on the back end or the front end, whatever you want to call the production is all changing.
It's like disingenuine with how less practical effects there are. Like go watch Buster Keaton, man. Watch the Buster Keaton and then watch something new. Like the dude, that guy's a stuntman was insane. Like,
well, there's 30,000 scripts a year. Like
submitted okay.
Well, that's what just as a joke is what Cat Williams said on that one interview where he pretty much called everybody out not too long ago with that sports broadcaster from ESPN. But I hate to say it, but Cat Williams is usually right about stuff. So something like that, I actually believe, you know, like, so 30,000 screenplays a year are being submitted, but it's got to be stuff with a progressive twist in a way, you know, it's got to be user friendly. It's murder document. Like there's 2 or 3 murder documentaries from the town I'm from, which is nowhere, South Carolina. But it made it all the way to Netflix, you know, like they want a certain kind of stuff now. And some of the stuff that me and Chase are working on right now is exactly the kind of thing that I actually think Netflix would want. We can't give too much away, but everybody here is what we're looking for, though, are people that want to get involved with this, that might want to fund this, or if YouTube, you know, is non-aggressively monetized as my channel is, if it made any money to do a project like that, that's the next step. You know, like we've already had every big box channel in the Gnostic world unpack everything 1,000 years before Jesus, 1,000 years after Jesus, and then everything else in between. They've already beat the shit out of it, right? So it's like if a channel's going to come along, the only way to really take it to the next level is to start making movies about it. Now, one of the things that me and Chase talked about was identifying symbology in different films. And of course, The Big Lebowski is a big one. But one thing I did want to bring into the conversation was and I'm going to go ahead and let everybody know, because it's not like it's something that's going to really blow the lid off of everything. But we all know the Big Lebowski scene, the purple Jesus, you know, all of that stuff. We all have seen either me cover it, or y'all, you know, talked about it, or seen a clip of it on the, you know, on my shorts or something like that. And so one thing I wanted to point out, since I'll just go ahead and do it real quick. Let me type this in real quick. And feel free to share anything, Marcel, from the chat.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
I've been trying to stay on top of that all night.
Yeah, you know, we had a great episode today, guys. I wanna end it on a cinematography thing, if you will. So we've all seen this scene, you know, under the Copyright Act, it's Section 107, fair use. I'm allowed to show this with some censorship. So I have to pause the video like every 15 seconds or so and critique it in a way, which is what we're going to do, right? So let's get into this real fast. Yeah. So let's go. So we have the Tyrian purple. We have the rings. All right. So we're seeing somebody who I hear something. But we have the Tyrian purple suit. We have the rings. Notice the fingernail. We have this is used usually for grabbing a small amount of powder out of a small baggie. I like to call it the coke nail. I don't know what everyone else likes. The reason I'm pausing it here is I want people to understand that the snake tongue and him licking this ball could have a couple of different symbologies being represented here, all right? But I'm not going to break that open too much. We have the crown of thorns being represented by this hairnet here. Jesus. Now, symbolically, even though I think this is just a clever coincidence with the bowling brace and this particular movie using bowling as just one of the things that the Big Lebowski is into, but you could arguably say that him knocking down all these pins would reflect on the Jesus of the past, knocking down his Neoniscos one at a time, if you will, knocking them all.
When he moved to Hollywood, he had to go door to door to tell everyone he was a pederast.
If you notice in this man's pants, he has a magic wand of sorts crammed in here that's in this particular clip, but not in the rest of his Tyrian purple bowling montage that we see here.
What's a pederast, Walter?
Shut the fuck up, Donnie. So, how much did they give you?
20 grand, man.
So I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. So one thing I want people to just listen real quick. What song is that? I know which one it is, but I'm asking y'all and I'm asking the audience, what song's playing in the background?
I don't know.
Do you know, Marcel?
I do, yeah.
What song is it? It's okay.
Hotel California.
Hotel California. Absolutely correct. Now, everybody here at Witch Doctor has already heard about the Tyrian purple Jesus, the Tyrian purple being symbology, the cocaine nail being symbology. Everybody's heard that, but I left one thing out, right? Let me just pull it up real quick. The song in the background. So I got the next page ready. I'm just gonna wait 1 second before I bring it up. Let me pull up the picture real quick. Here we go. That's actually not a very good picture. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up a different one. Go to images. All right. The song that we hear in the background is a Spanish version of Hotel California by the Gypsy Kings. All right. Now, does anybody know, either in the comments or the two of y'all, do you know what the song Hotel California is based on? There's a couple of rumors, but have you heard any of those? No. Have you, Marcel?
No. No. Well, I've looked into it like a decade ago, but I'll let you talk about it.
Well, there is a TikTok about a cult out of, I believe, California that did blood rituals, right? That's not true, though. That's a urban legend created by somebody with good TikTok video making skills, good CapCut skills and stuff. If you talk to the actual band, the Eagles, you ask them, hey, the song Hotel California, it gives you this very interesting vibe. This, besides the lyrics, obviously, have this weird revelation of somebody being trapped in a sort of situation where you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. According to the band, this song is based on a book called, The Magus by John Falls. So not only did Ethan Cohen, the director of this movie, The Big Lebowski, who is a philosophy major, who, when they go to college, philosophy majors read a lot of Greek, and they learn a lot of little. They find reward in the good books, as quoted by Tom Hanks' character in The Lady Killers, who is a Greek classicist. His role in the movie, his job, his career, his expertise was he was a PhD in Greek classics and Latin in the movie Lady Killers, another Ethan Cohen movie. But the song Hotel California is based off of this book, The Magus. Now, this book, The Magus, just to give the audience an idea, you got to go and read the book. It was super popular. It was released in 1965. All right. Now, the Hotel California came out in the 70s, and everybody in that band had read this book. It was extremely popular with younger people and like college age kids because it warped reality. It's about a guy from England who goes down to an island in Greece, and he meets this guy that the book is referring to as the Magus. So now that I've sparked everybody's attention into the actual, I guess you could say, motivation behind the eeriness of Hotel California and the different moods that it tries to put you in, go check out The Magus by John Falls, add it to your Amazon wish list, and definitely check out this movie. You're going to be really surprised by some of the things that you read in this book and some of the similarities that it has to this particular character that we're talking about in The Big Lebowski, or the same character that we've all been talking about when it comes to the religion of Christianity. There's some parallels with this Magus, but the name itself, Magus, is, of course, what we consider Jesus the Christ in the first place, a guy who applies Christ's and, works in the ways of the Magi, if you will. But anyway, I wanted to drop that on people today as far as just how far somebody in the film world, another filmmaker, another screenwriter, putting all these secrets, these little Easter eggs into the movie, and even down to the song that they choose, it being like, because Ethan Cohen had to know that song is based on that book. And I guarantee you Ethan Cohen's read The Magus 100%, And so I just wanted to lay that on people for another book recommendation, because we sit here and we talk about the same stuff all the time and we open up the text and whatnot, but you got to venture out a little bit. You know, like I've told people, watch The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Much Ado About Nothing. Watch people talking in different tongues with the same language and see how they hide all these adult jokes in the language, in the text, in the speech of these different actors in these different movies from time periods way beyond, you know, the Bible, but then all the way back to Homer as well. The way that they word stuff, how they hide everything in there. But dude, I appreciate it so much. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We've hit the 2-hour mark, but dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. Is there anything you want to say?
Thank you.
Oh, no. Thanks for having me. It's, you know, I kind of forgot about this movie. Just different life, you know, events happening and stuff. And so it's nice to hear people enjoy it and like it, because I just, you know, like for like just moving forward through life and making changes, kind of like forgot about it, put it in a shoebox, you know, and it's just like I hadn't even been thinking about it for the last couple of years. And so, yeah, it just feels really great that people enjoy it, and now it's up there. So, you know, hopefully it finds an audience. And then as far as like all of this really interesting narrative, ancient Greek stuff that is kicking up again, I would just tell people, like, do what I did. Don't take anybody's word for it. Go start reading it for yourself. Start looking through all these texts, and you know, and I think there's a lot of stuff in there, frameworks of looking at the world and different histories and stuff that might make some of the world now make a little bit more sense of like kind of where we came from. And I think we take it for granted. So, you know, go out there, learn ancient Greek, you know, prove someone wrong if that's what you want to do, but just experience something from that long ago and see if it makes your world a little more colorful and multidimensional, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad you came on, man, because, you know, with all the criticism that world, that Hellenistic world that we're all fans of, has received lately, it's good to see the fans of this stuff coming forward and talking a little bit, like that show that Tim Dillon had on Netflix. So This Is Your Country, America. He's like, well, we're all the drug addicts and stuff. Let's interview us all. Let's see just how crazy we are, you know. And we've had a few guests on, and we'll continue to have some other guys on and stuff. But we can't wait to have you back, and we can see what next steps you've been taking on this these new projects and stuff that you have in mind. And I definitely want to get people together. Hopefully this is the beginning of something where we can build a team here and we can put some stuff together, and we're going to get you behind that camera again and put the stories that we like, hopefully, together in a way that makes the same kind of sense, the conclusions that we've all come to. And we can hopefully do this in a really smart and tactful way to where, you know, to where we can tell the story the way that we want to. And you're just the guy to do that. You know, like if there's anybody that can nail the type of movie that we would want to do, or the type of short film or the type of work, you're the kind of guy that we would definitely want to bring on to do something like that. So hopefully we can get that to happen, you know, in the near future. That would definitely be great. We'll get Marcel to leave his igloo and come down to the South for a month, and we can get some stuff to happen for sure. But is there anything you wanted to say, Marcel?
Well, I'm just going to repeat myself and say thanks for coming on. It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I enjoy talking movies and stuff like that, because I did it my whole life. Or, well, me and my friends, we made movies and wrote plays before we had a video camera and just acted them for our parents. But my best friend, he knew he wanted to be a director when he was 5, and he grew up and did it,
that's awesome.
I find that really rare. So thank you for that. And hopefully I can put some good insight into the project that you guys are currently working on.
Hell yeah, man. And we got some good stuff in the mix. We've already started working on some stuff. So yeah, we're not going to give it all away, but you guys got your new book to watch. You got your new movie to watch, Less Lost by Chase Carmen. And of course, The Magus by John Falls. But again, guys, I appreciate it. And we'll see you again here soon. Look out for new episodes on different passages, different artwork, different entheogens of the past, and a breakdown on how they were used in antiquity. But until then, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Chase. We'll see y'all later.
Have a good night.